Hey guys, welcome back to another SC400 fix-up episode. Obviously, I'm doing lots of videos on this car recently since I'm trying to sell it to make money for my other cars. And today's topic will be fixing the bodywork, which the main part is this big gaping hole in the trunk. We also have some rust on the rear driver's side quarter. There's about 3 spots, like one here, and one here, but probably gonna end up doing a lot more than that because it'll probably be deeper underneath the paint. And then the whole door is fine. Driver's side front fender's fine. We've got a lot of chipping of the paint on the front bumper. Obviously no rust, but there's a lot of chipping, so I'm gonna have to repaint the bumper. Then the passenger fender right here is eaten away, and unfortunately that's where a mounting point is. So what I ended up doing, instead of repairing the fender, is I was able to source a new one. It's white, so I'm going to be painting this new one and then putting it back on the car. We're also going to be polishing up the headlights to match the glass inner or daytime running lights or whatever they're called. And yes, then the rest of the passenger side, including the door and the rear quarter panel, are in mint condition. So after that, and painting the gas cap, because for some reason it's black right now. Crappy paint job too. And after we paint all that, this car will be mint. At the end of the last episode, I was telling you guys that my brake calipers weren't fixed, but I was able to tap out the bleed screws with an M7x1 tap. So all my 4 brakes are on and they're all bled, so that's good. I also went to a part out, and along with that white fender, I picked up a rear sway bar as this car was missing it. And also, let me take you over here for a second. Before I install this stuff, probably off camera, I'm just going to show you what I got. I got a brown e-brake boot. I got a full set of brown floor mats. This is the window regulator for the passenger side. And I got a new handle because mine has a broken clip. Probably won't be able to focus for you, but it's this clip right here is broken. No, this clip is broken, so the door lock doesn't work on the passenger side. And I'm trying to make this car here perfect so I can sell it for a good penny as a fully working, functional SC400. The interior is fully put together. As you can see, the door card fully put together. Everything I cleaned right up. My new mats are in, e-brake shift boot, and although it doesn't look any different to you, the window goes up and down, which is a big step for the car. And so yeah, the interior is fully done. I finished bleeding all of the brakes, so all 4 corner brakes should work pretty well. And you can see it right there, I installed a new sway bar. The brakes actually did have a broken brake line just at the back, right up here somewhere. As you can see, it made a big puddle on the floor, but I fixed that right up. So let's go ahead and get to the body. Alright, so we're going to start with the trunk, as it's the worst part on the car. Sorry if the picture's kind of crooked. I don't have my tripod, so my phone is on a selfie stick inside of a jack handle. So that's the tripod for today. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and remove this on camera and show you what it looks like. This is the weatherproofing. This is duct tape. Alright. So this is what we have to work with. Let me show you guys up close what it looks like. So here it is, the big ouchie on the back of my car. It's essentially where the logo was. You can actually still see some of the mounting holes for the logo. That one for sure, and that one maybe, I'm not quite sure. But basically, you can almost fit your fist in it. And there's a bit of metal that's not rusted on the back, but not much. So I'm just going to start by removing the hood, or the trunk, sorry, and grinding off all of the bad metal. I'm going to, of course, take off the badges, which is just that one, because this one's clearly not there anymore. And then we're going to use a technique that I've never tried before, and it's no professional technique, but it should work fairly well. I'm not going to weld a piece of metal flush with it, because there's no way I can do it with my $100 welder. I'm instead going to weld a support, just a sheet metal piece at the back. Then we're going to fill it in on the front, And then we're going to use some Bondo and sand it down smooth and repaint. If you can't tell, this is not the same color as the bumper. They tried to paint it with some black paint. You can see all the runs, and there's the same black paint that was used to spray some fine words on the trunk. So obviously we're going to sand that down to make it smooth, and then probably just paint the entire trunk in one go. So let's go ahead and put you on a time lapse taking off the trunk. So now I got the carpet off of the trunk just to make it lighter, and you don't want to paint your carpet. So now I'm going to take off 4 bolts on either side to remove the trunk from its hinges. Now a little trick is to take a marker, a little permanent marker, or a pencil would work too, and just outline the hinge on both sides so that when you go to install it, you can line up exactly how it was before, and then your panel gaps will be perfect as long as they were perfect before. Alright, so I'm going to do my best by myself here and take off this trunk. Alright, so now we got the trunk on the ground, and I'm going to start by removing the spoiler, as I don't want to accidentally grind out the spoiler. And actually the spoiler must not be metal, because it's perfectly rust-free and the paint's in pretty much perfect condition. So even if I were to paint it, I'd probably paint the spoiler separate from the trunk. So I'm going to take out the spoilers, the badge, and in the same time lapse, I'm going to take away all of the rust that I can using a grinder and a bunch of sandpaper. So let's get started. Alright, so as you can see, I've taken off all of the rust and really flimsy metal material. So now basically the issue is we have a big gaping hole, which you could use some of that wire mesh. I just don't have any here, and I want to kind of try a slightly different solution. So I cut out this piece of steel off of some sheet I have laying around. It's probably around 1/16 of an inch thick, I'm not too sure though. Now essentially, what we're going to do here is cut this so it pretty much just covers the hole. It won't be perfect since the trunk has a curvature, so I'm going to try my best to bend it a little bit with the curvature. And I'm going to cut it about that width so that I can slide it in behind the metal, and then using a magnet stick, hold it there while I do some tack welds, and then we're going to fill in with Bondo and see if we can get her to go smooth. Alright, so let's get started drawing the template. So as you can see, I now have my template pretty much perfectly cut out. I tested it and it fits pretty nicely. As you can see, it is just about 1/2 inch on every dimension except for the top and bottom, because it has to be able to fit in, of course. So it will cover the hole very nicely. I feel like that's not the right way it goes. How does it go? Yeah, just like that. So as you can see, it covers the hole pretty nicely, and I kind of bent it to fit the curvature of the trunk. So now I'm going to use a magnet stick, put it right on the middle of it, and then you kind of just feed it in here. Of course, this will be different for every car, but there you go. It is pretty much flush with every single dimension. So I'm going to just work it a little bit to get it perfectly flush, as I don't have a very good welder, nor am I a good welder. And now I'm just going to do a couple welds to hold it in. Then I'll show you guys the final result. I have the ground on the other side of the hood, and I'm just using my $200 Mastercraft flux core welder. It's also a MIG welder, but I don't have any MIG gas for it right now. So this is just the cheapest fix you can probably do. And so let's go ahead and start the time lapse. So this is by no means amazing work, but it should do the trick. Unfortunately, the metal I was trying to weld to was so thin, and me being not a very good welder, it just kept burning through. But this is not falling through. I was able to tack it on in quite a few places. Then I ground it flush, because I want there to be a backing, but I don't want there to be any metal pieces where the Bondo has to stick to. There's a few holes, actually there's just the one at the bottom here, and the rest of them are covered by the metal. So I'm just going to lay on a lot of Bondo. If you have the fiberglass stuff, probably do that first, as it is what you should probably use first, but I don't have any of that. And we're going to stick with a budget build, and to be honest, it'll still be proper. So I'm going to go ahead and mix up a big batch of Bondo, then lay the Bondo on thick. I'm going to make sure all the little things from my flux core welding and like this little sticky stuff from my tape is off first. Then I'm going to lay the Bondo on thick, and then once it dries, we'll get to sanding down the Bondo. Save your lumps. Alright, so there it is, about half an hour later, which is the drying time required. So I'm going to go ahead and start sanding it. So I'm going to sand this with some coarse grit all the way up to fine grit. Also, there's the runs off of the black paint they painted on this trunk. There was this little rust spot over here that I got to smoothen out a little bit. And then basically I'm just going to make sure it's all 100% smooth. Where I took off the spoiler and they painted the black paint, you can see a little line. So I'm going to take that smooth. Make sure the top is smooth, especially where they wrote on top of it. Then I'm going to get it as smooth as possible, and I'll show you right before it's ready to paint. So there's the trunk all ready for paint. My phone's running out of charge and memory, so I'm going to have to make this video a little bit quicker. So basically it's not perfect, but if you run your hand over it, it's pretty smooth. I blew it off with air and did some alcohol, so it's perfectly clean. Now once I have the primer and paint, I can finish it off and then install it on the car. Alright, so I've got the heater warming up the can and the trunk lid. I also used a blow dryer, the little pink thing over there, to heat up the trunk lid, so that's all good to go. I clean it off again using the air and alcohol, so now I'm going to go ahead and lay down my primer, and then I'll probably go get the paint either tonight or tomorrow and do the paint as well. I'll show you guys the little first coat on camera, then I'll do the rest off camera. So here is the trunk. As I said a few seconds ago, it is not perfect by any means, but essentially once I finished priming it, I painted it, and the paint color wasn't perfect, so I painted it again, and this color is a lot closer. This is the correct color. I had it custom mixed for me, and so the paint job itself isn't perfect. It's a little streaky because it's such a big surface to work with. And I didn't bother clear coating it because the new owner might just repaint it anyway. If it was clear coated, it would look a lot better, admittedly, but I just kind of want to get this thing sold. And the problem area where the big hole used to be is a little bit rough because my sanding skills aren't quite on point, but compared to before, I would say it looks a lot better. There's a good angle right there. And the color match is actually not that bad. You can see it's a little darker and duller because of no clear coat, but essentially there it is. And now let's do a quick walk around of the whole rest of the car. I did a little bit more painting on the trunk cap. It used to be painted black. The whole fender used to be white, as this is a replacement fender. I did a much better job for some reason painting the fender than I did the trunk. It color matches almost perfectly, and it is a 100% rust-free front fender. The old fender was missing a huge chunk, as you might have seen in the first video. I also went ahead and polished up the headlights. They look really good. I degreased the whole engine bay under the hood, which you can't see, but it looks really good. I won't bother showing it to you though, because it's just a stock 4-liter 1UZ. But yeah, there's that. Moving along, this fender's already perfectly rust-free. No fixing required there. And then this rear quarter panel had quite a bit of rust on it down here, and like pretty much every few inches around the whole arc. So I ground that out and color match painted it. Again, not perfect, but a lot better than it used to be. And of course, there's the flat tire. This car will need a whole new set of tires once the new owner buys it. And I finished installing every interior piece. So there's the interior all cleaned up. It looks real nice. Everything works pretty much. Might need a new stereo in the trunk. This has like a CD changer in the trunk, which is missing, so it doesn't make any music right now. But that's not a big deal for some buyers, hopefully. And there it is. So essentially the SC400 build series is probably done now. Let me give you guys one more angle here. There it is. The finished SC400. Now essentially my plan here is to sell this car. I'm in Ontario, Canada, if anyone watching this is actually interested in buying it. Full disclosure, pretty much you've seen the body, old and new. Also, it'll need a new battery, clearly new tires, the rims are fine. And the brakes, I fixed them, but they're still a little spongy. There's, I think, one line's a little bit rough in the back there, and it might need a new bleeding, but definitely not a massive job. And underside of the car looks pretty clean. Bit of surface rust that probably should be fixed before it becomes a problem, but other than that, pretty clean car. I'm probably going to see what the interest is, but I'm probably going to be asking around $5,000 Canadian, which I think is a pretty fair asking price. The problem is there's not a single one for sale in Ontario, really. So it's really hard to gauge interest on it, but there it is. And there's actually a pretty sick photo of all 3 Lexuses, featuring 2 Priuses. Anyway, so thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the last video in this series. If you want to see anything else on it before it goes away, please let us know in the comments down below. As always, thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe.